Breaking Bad has enough amazing scenes to make a top 100 list. Hell, season 5 has enough of those moments by itself, so it's not exactly surprising that I and so many others call it my favourite TV show. And if you've seen it, viewers normally have a scene they can point to and call their favourite, whether it's the gripping events of the scene from the desert in Ozymandias or the wonderful dialogue in Mike's monologue from Half Measures. People's favourite scenes are usually really iconic, but my favourite scene doesn't have any action in it, there's no giant plot twist revealed in it, the location is fairly boring and plain, and it's even eclipsed for many by another famous scene in the very same episode. But even so, my favourite scene in Breaking Bad has never changed from my first viewing. Today, we'll give a breakdown of what makes this scene so special to me, so hopefully I can extend the appreciation it deserves to others. This is the hospital scene. Now, before we can dissect the scene, I'll drop in a bit of context to get you caught up. This is Walter White, average guy by day, drug dealer Heisenberg, also by day. Yeah, he sort of neglects his family for a while to pursue the drug dealer thing. Anyway, this is Jesse Pinkman, Walt's former meth-making partner and currently full-time hospital patient. Now, Jesse is in the hospital because he and Walt prank called Hank Schrader, the DEA agent, whilst he was after Jesse. When Hank realised it was a prank, he went to Jesse's to deliver him a knuckle sandwich. Now, the wrench thrown in here is that Hank is Walt's brother, so when Jesse, Walt's former partner, threatens to destroy Hank's career with the knowledge of the attack, Walt has to devise a countermeasure. This comes in the form of a meth-making deal with Walt worth $1.5 million. Okay, we all caught up? Good. Now that we can start the scene, you'll notice a few things. Like I said, the setting is very bare bones, which serves a few purposes. Firstly, it allows the scene to be fully focused on the dialogue. There are no distractions or things to be looking out for in the scene, it's all focused on this conversation. Secondly, it highlights Jesse's physical and mental vulnerability. Nearly every shot of Jesse is a close-up, showing not only his bloodied and battered face, but his emotional turmoil being unloaded in his monologue. And this monologue is exactly what makes the scene for me, because in my opinion, it's the first and only time, all the way up until Jesse realizes Walter poisoned Brock in season 5, that Jesse truly sees Walter for what he really is, and understands the extent of his manipulation. Ironically, in his weakest physical state, Jesse is mentally clear for the first time, and this moment of clarity to his whole experience with Walter is so compelling to watch. Naturally, the scene opens up with Walter explaining the situation and framing it as this big opportunity for Jesse. Now, when Jesse initially sees through this correctly as a ploy to save Hank's career, Walt doubles down and highlights the benefit this will bring Jesse.
$1.5 million each.
Walt's understanding of Jesse is that this will be enough to get him on board. After all, their entire partner dynamic before was built on earning as much money as possible with their purest form of meth. But shockingly for Walter, Jesse sees through this too, and delivers perhaps my favourite line in the series.
I am not turning down the money. I am turning down you.
As the audience, we're somewhat relieved. We know that Jesse returning to the meth business will only continue to make his life worse, yet it comes as a surprise because 3 seasons and 10 episodes in, Jesse has scarcely shown this self-awareness to the true nature of Walter White, and Walter is taken aback too, leading to his silence for the majority of this scene and causing Jesse to begin his brilliant monologue. Now, I could talk for days about how this is some of the best, most raw acting I've ever seen televised. I could say how this line,
I have nothing. No one.
hits harder than a truck driving 70 miles per hour on the motorway, but ultimately it all leads to a not so fun segment called Jesse and the Horrible, Terrible, No Good, Very Bad Life. Let's do a super fast recap of everything awful that's happened to Jesse since getting into the business with Walter. He has tripped over a rock, dropped a dead body, burned a dead body in acid, fallen off a toilet, fought with his parents, fought with his friend, got beaten up by a drug lord, twice, been evicted, had his bike stolen, fallen into a toilet, dealt with crazy drug addicts, been stranded in the desert, been beaten up by his girlfriend's dad, had his girlfriend then die, and finally he got beaten up by Hank. There are some truly awful things in here, but the saddest part is most people would agree it only gets worse from here for Jesse Pinkman. And so him realizing this, taking his stand and throwing Walter's opportunity in his face is such a cathartic scene. But unfortunately, Jesse reveals too much of his own emotion. As Walter sat there dumbfounded as to how he can manipulate this to his way, Jesse asks,
Why would you want me, huh?
going on to say how Walter disrespected his meth. Walter gets up to leave, and you think the scene is over, with Jesse cursing out Walter and curling up in his hospital bed. But unfortunately for Jesse, this gives Walter the idea to deliver just one final line.
Your meth is good, Jesse. As good as mine.
And this just completes the scene for me. The next scene shows Walter receiving a phone call from Jesse, who accepts the offer. This is so cleverly done because it seems so anticlimactic. That huge scene just for him to go back on what he was saying 30 seconds later. But I think it's easy to forget, especially after such a great moment of clarity for Jesse, that he's still just a kid. Jesse's only 24 when Breaking Bad starts, which is what cements the teacher-student, father-son dynamic so strongly between Walter and him. And as Jesse says in his monologue, he has lost everyone he truly cares about and has been shunned by his own parents, which causes this final outburst in the scene. More than anything else, Jesse just wants validation. And it's so unbelievably toxic that all it took was that one line from Walter to get Jesse to change his mind, but that is what makes it so powerful. Walt does practically no convincing in this scene. His modest approval is all that is needed to turn the tide in his favor. After Jesse accepts the offer, we get another look at something in Jesse's hospital room. A pain scale meant for patients to determine what their pain is to the doctor. Jesse stares at the final level of pain, which reads, worst pain possible, eyes closed, moaning, crying, bed rest required, as he shuts his eyes after moaning and crying to Walter just minutes before. This is obviously a symbol of the pain he's experienced, but unfortunately it's also a symbol of the pain to come. So whilst this scene appears on practically no iconic moments lists or videos, the acting, raw performance by Aaron Paul, and the hyper-detailed and intricate levels of manipulation at play here, along with the heartbreaking experience of seeing Jesse have a rare moment of clarity, only to get sucked back in with one line, all create what is my favourite scene in Breaking Bad. I'd love to hear what your favourite scene is from the show and why, but for now, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.